on the street singing do-a-dee-dee-dee-dee-dum-dee-dee-dum, popping her fingers and shuffling her feet, singing do-a-dee-dee-dee-dum-dee-dee-dum. She looked good, she looked good, she looked fine, looked fine, looked good, she looked fine, and I nearly lost my mind.
Oklahoma Sooners are back at home for their final non-conference regular season game for 2018. And just like the Sooners, Army, they have a lot of football tradition. Of course, Army's tradition goes back to the mid-1940s where they won several national championships, had some Heisman Trophy winners, and had success in the 1950s. Of course, Army has had rare big-time success since that era. And for the Sooners, who've had success, of course, since the Benny Owen era, Wilkinson, Switzer, and, of course, Stoops, and now with Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma knows that they have to be disciplined and better be ready to tackle, better than what they were ready for last week when their tackling was just absolutely shitty against Iowa State. They'll need to be disciplined and be ready to go against an Army offense that runs the triple option. Yes, same offense that Navy, Air Force, and Georgia Tech run. Got to be aware of the quarterback, got to be aware of the running back, got to be aware of the outside. This is an offense that is not easy to defend. Now, Oklahoma will have the talent advantage, but of course, the strategy that Army will place into this game, should at least in the early going be interesting. The Sooners, though, odds makers think, hey, they got this in the bag, more than a 30-point favorite to defeat the Black Knights. Now, Saturday's game, 6 o'clock kickoff. It's on pay-per-view, and I could gripe till doomsday about how much I hate pay-per-view. It's never going away. Oklahoma has one game a year where it's pay-per-view. And if you want to see it go away, Sooner fans, don't buy the game. But, of course, Oklahoma, big-time program, fans will fork out the $55 and watch it. It's just that simple. Supply and demand, and there you have pay-per-view, one game a year. Thank goodness, just one game a year. Notice that it's the first evening game of the season, and I held off doing this report for as long as I could, and the reason had nothing to do with the teams, had everything to do with this thing called rain. Now, you probably have heard, if you live in the Oklahoma area, what's about to happen the day before the game. On Friday, going to get a ton of rain. It's going to be flash flooding, and if you know anything about Norman, especially around campus, it floods in a hurry just from a little bit of rain. You keep hearing the local meteorologists say that on Friday, the day before the game, talking maybe 5, 6, 7 inches of rain. I know Ardmore, which is 90 miles south of Norman. If you don't know where that is, it's not too far from the Red River. Ardmore is supposed to get over a foot of rain by the time this weekend is all said and done. Maybe 16 inches in that part of the state. For the Oklahoma City metro area, again, could be as little as 4 or 5 inches. Could be as many as 7 or 8. Now, on game day, not expecting as much rain and not expecting it to rain throughout Saturday. In fact, it gets closer to kickoff. Expect, light rain and maybe none at all. Maybe that system will be out of here come kickoff. But, of course, two big things will be, number one, how much additional rain will lie in store for Saturday. And then the other thing to keep in mind as well is going to be the field conditions. Gaylord Memorial, of course, a natural grass surface. And it actually, for natural grass, does well as far as holding moisture. But this is going to be a ton of moisture from early Friday morning, possibly into Saturday evening. And people will say, well, this gives Army the advantage because of their running attack. And to me, I don't buy that. I'm not saying OU has the advantage. I think in this case, it's pretty much canceled out. And the reason is because, for Oklahoma, it's going to be harder throwing the ball. And, of course, Army, they don't throw the ball much at all. Running for them is not going to be easy either because of ball exchange as well. So you have to keep that in mind. And, traction is going to be a big thing for these teams as well on what will be a very wet surface. I still expect a large crowd for this game. There'll be some who won't go and probably sell their tickets. Hope that's not the case, but let's be realistic, okay? Bad weather will create that temptation. I still think because it is Oklahoma football, and also, too, because it's a night game, and we've been craving for a night game after an 11 a.m., a noon, and an 11 a.m. Oklahoma time kickoffs, finally going to get a prime time game. So I don't think the weather at all is going to have that much of an effect as far as overall crowd participation, as far as crowd attendance, as far as the home stadium being very loud. Let's go ahead and break down the game itself between these two teams. When Army has the ball, of course, expect to see them run the ball constantly. But not only that, but also, too, to try to control the clock. Now, Army won 10 games last year, okay? They've never had back-to-back 10-win seasons before. Never had that. But there's no doubt that their head coach in the form of Jeff Monken has done a terrific job. They've definitely taken a huge step when it comes to trying to win football games, and that is control time of possession. And already this season, they're averaging over 39 minutes per game. Last week in their win over Hawaii, the Black Knights had the ball close to 41 minutes. And obviously, if you're Oklahoma, you know what you have to do. Got to make sure that quarterback for them, and that is Kelvin Hopkins Jr., is well contained. He's the leading rusher for this squad. He's a guy that can also, too, throw deep. Now, his completion percentage, when Army does throw, it's less than 50%, but he's averaging 23 yards per completion. And they've already completed 18 passes. You might say, well, that's nothing. But remember, Army last year, despite having a 10-3 record, only completed 20 passes throughout the entire season. They've almost amassed that, and here we are barely out of mid-September. He's got a strong arm, does Hopkins. So the Sooners' secondary, which is fairly young, of course, with Bookie Radley-Hiles, Trey Norwood, of course, and Justin Broyles and Parnell Motley, have to be aware that it can't just be 100% focused. I think what you'll see in this game, I think you'll see the Sooners, put 7 in the box, making sure that everything's covered. This is going to be a talent mismatch, but again, I thought it was a talent mismatch 8 years ago when Air Force came into Norman and only lost by 3 points and had one heck of a day running the ball. I bring that up because that's the last time that the Sooners faced a triple option attack. Again, it starts with the quarterback. The running back, it's not too bad either. Darnell Woolfolk last year had over 1,600 yards rushing. This year, not putting up big rushing yards as early. He's averaging about 60 yards per game on the ground, but he already has 3 touchdowns. So you have to keep him in mind as well. Sooners obviously have to have gap control. And by the way, the rush defense for OU has not been that bad at all. Remember last week talking about the super running back from Iowa State, Montgomery? OU held him in check, held him to under 100 yards. And the thing that the Sooners in all 3 games have in common, Oklahoma's been a tougher team to run against in the second half of the first 3 games of the season than the first half of those 3 games. They've done a good job in adjusting, and I feel pretty confident that the guys up front, Kenneth Mann and company, I feel like they should be in fantastic shape with no Gallimore and company. This should be Oklahoma's game up front. Big thing about this team, though, is to make sure you wrap up, make sure you're in position. Otherwise, Oklahoma's going to be giving up big chunks over the middle as well as down the sideline. Okay, so we'll see how the secondary, how they handle, how the corners handle single covers, because I'd be willing to bet you that we will see plenty of that, with Norwood as well as with Motley. Motley last week started well against Iowa State, but then had difficulty as the game progressed, especially against Hakeem Butler, both keeping up with him as well as tackling. So don't tackle well against these guys. It's really going to hurt. And I think a realistic goal for the senior defense, see if you can hold these guys to, no less than 220 yards rushing. Again, this is a team that's just not going to throw often, but they will throw, and don't be surprised if they throw deep to test those safeties as well as the corners. Looking at Oklahoma's offense, I see no reason why Kyler Murray can't have a big game. Again, weather, I'm not saying that you shouldn't take weather into consideration, but OU's going to throw, okay, regardless. They're going to throw. Army's secondary has been bad so far, even though Army's 2-1 entering this game after a loss to Duke, but back-to-back wins over Liberty and Hawaii to get it 2-1. Liberty and Hawaii were able to throw big time. In fact, Army this year already has given up 275 yards in passing per game. Okay, and that's well over 800 yards. So I would expect Murray to be looking at his chops and being able to find Lamb, being able to find Hollywood, being able to find Calcaterra, being able to find A.D. Miller. The Black Knight rush defense, well, that's a little bit better. They give up 140 yards on the ground per game, which compared to the pass defense is actually a big thumbs up for them. But still, I expect the Oklahoma offensive line to open up the holes to make life easier for Trey Sermon and company. Name you have to watch out for, though, on the Army defensive side is their linebacker, James Nakadal. Last year had over 100 tackles, and already this year averaging 6 tackles per game. He loves to blitz up the middle, so OU has to keep that in mind. Final thoughts on this game, just barring Oklahoma turnovers and complete collapses in containing the triple option throughout the game, I see no reason why Oklahoma shouldn't win this game going away. I'm not going to pick them to cover that spread. I mean, it's plus 30. That's a lot of points to give up, but I do think Oklahoma wins and wins going in style 42-14 to advance to 4-0. Just a reminder that the Sooner-Baylor game, kickoff time has already been announced for that for September 29th from Norman. It'll be 2:30. Yeah, it's not prime time, but hey, at least it's not a morning kickoff. Yeah, there we go. A reminder, coming up Friday, September 21st on this very webpage, another installment of my 3 picks for me and the coin. We're going to pick 3 more games nationally against the spread, so make sure you check that out. Also, please subscribe if you haven't done so. Promise you won't regret it. Post-game, by the way, for Oklahoma Army, I will not have that up until Sunday morning, okay? Just a reminder, it won't be until Sunday morning. So Saturday after the game, you'll be like, where's this post-game at? Well, I'm telling you now, it won't be until Sunday morning. So thanks for your patience on that. Again, Oklahoma Army, 6 p.m., pay-per-view, like it or hate it. And I don't think too many people out there love it, but that's just the way it is. 6 p.m. Oklahoma kickoff time. And by the way, my personal thanks to the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, National Guard, all other branches that make our lives so much better as U.S. citizens. Thank you for your service. It is immeasurable. Boomer Sooner.